Assalamu alaikum, beloved gems of spiritual miracle tale. You are unique and chosen by Allah to receive these heartwarming stories. May these reminders of His love and mercy enrich your life, bring you peace, and fill your heart with gratitude. You are truly special, and your journey matters here. Let's see how the great Imam, the chief of the mosque, Rumi, may Allah have mercy on him, went to a tavern to buy alcohol, leaving the people in shock. An atmosphere of astonishment and disbelief spread everywhere. The public did not expect this from their Imam, but as Rumi's steps moved toward the tavern, the entire city witnessed this unusual scene. People began to follow him to find out what was really happening. Let's see what the outcome of this surprising incident will be and how the reaction of the people changes. Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi Rahmatullah Alayh. One night, Jalaluddin Rumi, may Allah have mercy on him, invited his teacher, Sheikh Shamsuddin Tabrizi, to his home. The Murshid, spiritual guide, Shamsuddin, accepted the invitation and came to Rumi's house. After all the dinner dishes were ready, Shams said to Rumi, "Can you provide me with a drink?" Meaning wine, alcohol. Rumi was shocked to hear this. "Does the teacher also drink?" "Yes," Shams replied. Rumi was still surprised. "Sorry, I didn't know this." "Now you know, so provide it. At this time of night, where can I get wine? Tell one of your servants to buy it. My honor in front of my servants will be lost. In that case, go out yourself to buy the wine. The whole city knows me." "How can I go out and buy a drink? If you are truly my student, you must provide what I ask. Without a drink, tonight I will not eat, will not talk, and cannot sleep." Out of love for his teacher, Rumi eventually put on his cloak, hid a bottle under it, and walked toward the Christian quarter. Until he entered the quarter, no one thought anything of him. However, once he entered the Christian neighborhood, some people were surprised and began to follow him. They saw Rumi enter a tavern. He was seen buying a bottle of drink, then he hid it under his cloak and walked out. People continued to follow him, and their numbers grew. Finally, Rumi arrived in front of the mosque where he was the imam for the town. Suddenly, one of those following him shouted, "O people, Sheikh Jalaluddin Rumi, who leads your prayers every day, has just gone to the Christian neighborhood and bought alcohol." The person said this while uncovering Rumi's cloak. The crowd saw the bottle Rumi was holding. "The man who claims to be an ascetic and whom you follow bought alcohol and is bringing it home," the person shouted provocatively. The people became enraged and began spitting on Rumi's face and beating him until his turban slipped down to his neck. Seeing Rumi remain silent without defending himself, the crowd became more convinced that they had been deceived by Rumi's teachings of asceticism and piety. They no longer felt any compassion and continued to beat Rumi, with some even intending to kill him. Suddenly, the voice of Shams Tabrizi was heard. "O shameless people! You have accused a scholar and jurist of drinking alcohol. Know that what is in that bottle is vinegar for cooking." One of them challenged this, saying, "That's not vinegar, it's alcohol. I saw with my own eyes Rumi buying it at the tavern." Then Shams took the bottle and opened the cap. He poured a bit of the liquid onto the hands of the people so they could smell it. They were shocked because it was indeed vinegar. It turns out that before going to Rumi's house, the teacher had stopped by the tavern and instructed the shopkeeper to give Rumi a bottle filled with vinegar if he came to buy alcohol. The people then beat their own heads in regret and bowed at Rumi's feet. They crowded around to apologize and kissed Rumi's hands until, one by one, they slowly left. Rumi said to Shams, "Tonight, you've dragged me into a big problem, to the point where I had to tarnish my own honor and reputation in front of my followers. What was the meaning of all this? So that you understand that the honor of the people and the prestige you take pride in is nothing but an illusion. Do you think the respect of ordinary people like them is something eternal? You saw for yourself, just because of the suspicion over one bottle of drink, all that respect vanished, and they spat on you, beat you, and nearly killed you. Is this the honor you've been so proud of and fought for, which disappeared in an instant? From today, stop seeking honor from fellow humans and rely on the one who is not shaken by time and is not broken by the changes of the ages. He, the Almighty, knows who is truly honorable and who seeks only false honor. From now on, rely only on Allah, the Most High. He knows who is truly honorable from those who are false. Rumi's eyes filled with tears and his heart trembled. He understood now. The illusion of human respect was shattered, and the veil over his own pride had been lifted. He looked up towards the heavens and whispered, "O Allah, let my honor be only in you, for you alone are eternal." Story about the Hafiza girl and the grave's mystery. A shocking revelation of hidden truths. It was a quiet evening in a small village, where whispers of a mysterious incident had begun to spread like wildfire. At the heart of the story was Ariba, a young girl known for her angelic face, soft voice, and unparalleled piety. She wasn't just any ordinary girl. She was a Hafiza of the Quran, someone who had committed the entire holy book to memory by the age of 14. In the eyes of the villagers, she was a symbol of divine blessing, an embodiment of purity and righteousness. But fate had something else in store. Ariba passed away suddenly at the tender age of 19, leaving everyone in shock and despair. Her funeral was a grand event, attended by hundreds of villagers who revered her. Tears flowed as people spoke of her kindness, her devotion, and her incredible achievement as a Hafiza. Her family took solace in the belief that Ariba would now rest in eternal peace, blessed by Allah's mercy. However, just a few days after her burial, strange rumors began to surface. One night, the caretaker of the graveyard, Baba Karim, was making his usual rounds. Under the faint glow of the moonlight, he thought he heard muffled cries coming from Ariba's grave. At first, he dismissed it as his imagination, but the cries persisted, growing louder each night. Baba Karim, a man of faith, was deeply disturbed. How could this be? He whispered to himself. A Hafiza of the Quran. Why would her grave echo with sounds of torment? Unable to contain his anxiety, Baba Karim confided in the village imam, Maulana Qasim. The imam was equally perplexed, but urged caution. "We cannot jump to conclusions," he said. "Let us observe for a few more nights before informing the family." By now, the rumor had reached every corner of the village. People began gathering outside the graveyard at night, straining their ears to hear the unsettling cries. The once peaceful graveyard became a place of fear and curiosity. After much deliberation, Ariba's father, a man of strong faith, decided to have the grave opened under the supervision of Maulana Qasim. The villagers gathered in hushed silence as the grave was dug. Hearts pounded, breaths were held, and eyes widened with anticipation. What they found inside left everyone in utter disbelief. Ariba's body was intact, her face as beautiful as ever, but the signs of torment were undeniable. Her shroud was torn, her fingers bruised, as if she had tried to claw her way out. It was a sight that sent shivers down the spines of even the most steadfast believers. "How is this possible?" someone whispered. "She was a Hafiza of the Quran. Shouldn't her soul be at peace?" In search of answers, Maulana Qasim led the investigation, speaking to those closest to Ariba. Slowly, a darker side of her life began to emerge, a side no one had suspected. Ariba, though outwardly pious, had harbored secrets that she never revealed. She had wronged a close friend, stealing her rightful inheritance in a moment of greed. Despite knowing it was a grave sin, she never sought forgiveness. Worse, she had spread false rumors about another girl in the village, tarnishing her reputation out of jealousy. These hidden sins, though unknown to the world, were not hidden from Allah. The Imam addressed the crowd with a trembling voice. Let this be a lesson for us all. Memorizing the Quran is a noble act, but it is not enough to secure salvation. Baba Karim, who had witnessed countless burials in his lifetime, often recited a verse from the Quran as he walked through the graveyard. Says in Quran, on that day, secrets will be put on trial. Ariba's life and death became a source of deep introspection for all who knew her. She was remembered not just for her beauty or her memorization of the Quran, but for the profound lesson her story imparted. That true piety lies not in outward appearances, but in the purity of the heart and the humility to seek forgiveness. This tale, though tragic, serves as a wake-up call for us all. It urges us to reflect on our own lives, to uncover the hidden flaws we often ignore, and to seek Allah's mercy before it is too late. For in the end, it is not the world's perception that matters, but the judgment of the one who knows all secrets. Will you take heed before it's too late? As a reminder of the importance of sincerity in faith and the necessity of repentance. The story of Amina, a journey of faith and resilience. In the realm of Alam-e-Arwa, where souls awaited their journey to the world, a gentle soul, Amina, was called upon. It was her time to descend to Dunya, the earthly world. She was to be born into a loving and prosperous family, a house already blessed with 2 boys and 3 girls. She was celebrated as the 4th daughter, the 6th child in a family that welcomed her arrival with open arms and immense joy. Her childhood was nothing short of a fairy tale. Amina was surrounded by every comfort imaginable, lavish toys, luxurious vacations, and the best education money could afford. As she grew, her beauty, grace, and intelligence became the pride of her family. By 20, she was ready for the next chapter of her life. Her family arranged her marriage to Adam, a man who seemed to be the perfect match. Adam was not only handsome, but also came from an equally affluent family. Their wedding was the talk of the town, a celebration that seemed to seal their lives in bliss, after sometimes Adam held his newborn daughter in his arms, his face glowing with happiness. She's perfect, Adam whispered. Our little Amina has brought nothing but blessings. Amina smiled at her husband. Allah has blessed us abundantly. May we always remain grateful. Together they had 3 beautiful children, a 6-year-old son, a 3-year-old daughter, and a 2-year-old son. Their life seemed perfect, a picture of happiness and prosperity. The years passed in bliss. They raised their children in love and luxury, ensuring each had the best education and upbringing. Amina often told her children, gratitude brings barakah. Never forget to thank Allah for everything you have. One serene evening, after a day filled with laughter and joy, the family returned from a beach outing. That night, as everyone fell into a deep sleep, their world began to unravel. The next morning, their eldest son, Ammar, ran into their bedroom. Abu, it's time for school, wake up! Adam didn't respond. Alarmed, Ammar shouted louder, Mama! Abu isn't waking up! Amina rushed in, shaking Adam. Adam, wake up! Please wake up! Her voice trembled with fear. She called for an ambulance, her hands shaking. At the hospital, the doctor delivered the devastating news, Mrs. Amina. Your husband has suffered a major stroke. He's in a coma, and his chances of recovery are slim. Amina clutched her chest as tears streamed down her face. No, this can't be true. The doctor placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. I'm so sorry. We'll do our best. In an instant, her world crumbled. The once vibrant man who was her partner in life was now unresponsive, and the burden of raising 3 young children fell solely on her shoulders. As days turned into months, medical bills mounted, and Adam's business partners exploited his absence. Amina, once a queen in her household, found herself evicted from her mansion. With no savings and no one to rely on, she rented a tiny house and began her fight for survival. Months later, the phone rang in the middle of the night. Amina answered, her voice shaky. "Mrs. Amina, I'm sorry to inform you that your husband has passed away." The phone slipped from her hand as she fell to the floor, sobbing. Her children gathered around her. "Mama, what's wrong?" Ammar asked, his innocent eyes filled with concern. Amina held them tightly. "Your Abu. He's with Allah now." Her youngest, Hamza, looked up at her. "Why did Allah take Abu?" Choking back her tears, Amina whispered, "Because Allah loves him, my son, and he has a plan for us." Amina struggled to rebuild her life. Relatives mocked her. She had everything, and now look at her, they sneered. But Amina stayed steadfast. She turned to Allah, praying day and night. One day, a distant cousin visited her, sharing a story of faith. "My daughter was born with a rare illness," the cousin said. "The doctors told me she wouldn't live more than 3 months." I was shattered. Amina listened intently, tears welling up in her eyes. "But we prayed," the cousin continued. "We thanked Allah for every moment we had with her. She lived for 6 beautiful years, bringing joy and teaching us to cherish life." The cousin smiled through her tears. "When she passed, we didn't grieve. Instead, we thanked Allah for those 6 precious years. Trust in Him, Amina. He never burdens a soul beyond what it can bear." Amina was moved. "Your story has given me hope. Jazakallah khair for sharing it." Amina takes on odd jobs during the day, cleaning, babysitting, and tutoring. At night, she creates content for YouTube. A montage shows her working tirelessly. It is very hard for a mother who had to take care of 3 little children, a household chores, and her works, a miracle mother, Amina, to herself. "My children will have a better life. I won't let them suffer." One night, her second son wakes and finds her working. "Son, Ami, why don't you sleep, Amina?" Smiling softly. "Because your dreams are worth my sleepless nights." She prayed during tahajjud and cried her heart out to Allah, seeking strength. Her dua was simple yet profound. "Ya Allah, make my children righteous and successful. Guide me so I may guide them." Years passed, and her hard work paid off. Her YouTube channels flourished, and her children excelled. Ammar became a renowned scientist, Hamza a world-famous chef, and Yusuf a leading doctor. Despite their success, Amina never sought validation from those who once mocked her. She lived humbly, quietly thanking Allah for His mercy. One day, Amina's grandmother fell ill and wished to see her. Amina packed simple gifts and went to visit her family after 20 years. When she arrived, whispers filled the air. "Look at her. She's so poor now. She used to be so proud. What happened to her?" Amina ignored them, keeping her head high. Moments later, luxury cars pull up. Her sons step out, dressed impeccably, carrying lavish gifts. The relatives freeze in shock. A luxury car pulled up, and Ammar stepped out. "Who is that?" a relative asked, staring in awe. "That's Amina's eldest son," another whispered. Hamza arrived next, holding a beautifully wrapped gift box. Yusuf followed, stepping out of his car with an air of confidence. The 3 sons entered the house, embracing their mother. "Mama," Ammar said, "you are the reason we stand tall today. Your sacrifices made us who we are." Hamza handed her the gift box. "We owe everything to you, Mama. You're our greatest blessing." Yusuf added, "No wealth in the world compares to your love and faith." The relatives, stunned, watched in silence. Amina knelt beside her grandmother, who smiled weakly. "You are my pride, Amina. You've shown the world the power of faith and resilience. May Allah bless you always," her grandmother said. Amina kissed her hand. "It was Allah's mercy, Dadi. Everything I have is because of Him." As her grandmother passed away peacefully, Amina left with her sons. Her relatives, humbled, approached her. "We were wrong about you, Amina. Please forgive us." Amina smiled gently. "Allah forgives. Who am I to hold grudges? May He guide us all." She returned home with her sons, her heart full of gratitude. The world now saw her as a beacon of hope and faith. Years later, Yusuf asked her, "Mama, if you could change anything about your life, would you?" Amina smiled, her eyes glistening. "Not a single moment. Every hardship was a blessing in disguise. It brought me closer to Allah and shaped us into who we are." Her journey ended not in wealth or fame, but in the love of her children and the contentment of her heart, a true masterpiece of faith and resilience. A mother's love for her children transforms her pain into power, her struggles into strength, and her faith into an unshakable legacy. Transformed a man with empty pockets into a proud owner of a luxury car and a bungalow. Once a middle-class employee who had barely been earning his living. At the beginning of his story, he had no money to marry and start a family. Years passed, and he lost all hope of making his dream of a family life become a reality. One day, returning home from work, he passed by an orphanage. Seeing the poor orphans, he thought about how fortunate he was compared to those little ones. He suddenly felt grateful for his situation and decided to help those children. "Cannot afford to build a home in this life, so let me seek one in paradise, inshallah, God willing," he thought. Acting with total faith, altruism, and dedication, the man started setting aside 5% of his monthly salary to help the orphans. His life went on as usual, and he did not regret his decision for a single moment, even though he occasionally became penniless before the end of the month. Sometime later, a job opened up in his company's branch in one of the Arab Gulf countries. Usually, an opportunity like this was only available to someone with connections or was given as a way of showing favoritism, but to his surprise, his boss nominated him for the post, and he got the job. His life changed completely, as he reported in his story in the newspaper. He is now happily married, living in a nice big house, and earning a decent living. Most importantly, he added, he never forgot to deduct the 5% of his salary to give to the little children in the orphanage. I was so very touched by this tale of total faith, altruism, and honesty that I suggested that my husband and I do as the man did. "We should deduct part of our salary to give to the less fortunate," I said excitedly. My husband's reaction was an eye-opener. He said, "If you think this is a magic prescription for wealth, then you have the wrong intention. If you want to do it, you should do it only to seek the pleasure of Allah." His words made me reconsider my motives for a moment, and then I responded that I really was seeking the pleasure of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Glorified and exalted is He. I thought that I already had so many blessings for which I was truly grateful, and I wanted to help others as a sign of gratitude. Clarifying my intention helped me to honestly mean it. So my husband and I participated in an orphanage construction project, giving part of our monthly earnings to help the orphans. We went on with our daily lives, not forgetting to pay our share every month. 2 years went by and my husband was offered a job in another country. We were packing up when I found a folded piece of paper that I had kept in one of my drawers. It was the article I read 2 years back. Only when I saw it did I start to reflect on my life, and I realized how dramatically it had changed within those past 2 years. We had our own house instead of an apartment. My old, difficult-to-start car had been replaced by a brand new one with automatic transmission, and we could now afford an expensive international education for our children. Subhanallah, all glory be to God. It was truly an unexplainable phenomenon, a divine prescription that asked only for pure faith and honest intention. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, blessings and peace be upon him, used a very touching story to teach us the same concept, to assist us in the difficult situations we face. He said, 3 men from among those who were before you set out together until they reached a cave by night and entered it. A big rock rolled down the mountain and closed the mouth of the cave. They said to each other, Nothing can save us from this rock except invoking Allah by mentioning the righteous deeds that we have done for the sake of Allah only. One of them said, "O Allah, I had old parents to whom I used to provide milk, and I never gave that milk to my wife and children until I had offered it to my parents first. One day I happened to be delayed and I came home late at night, milked the sheep and took the milk to my parents, but I found them sleeping. I disliked offering it to my family before them, so I waited for them with the bowl of milk in my hands, and I kept on waiting for them to get up until it was dawn. Then they got up and drank the milk. 0 Allah. If I did that for your sake only, I invoke you to relieve us from our critical situation caused by this rock." The rock moved a little, but they still could not get out. The second man said, "O Allah, I had a cousin who was the dearest of all people to me, and I wanted to have sexual intercourse with her, but she refused. Later, she had a hard time in a year of famine, and she came to me. I gave her 120 dinars on the condition that she would not resist my desire, and she agreed. When I was about to fulfill my desire, she said, 'It is illegal for you to violate my chastity except through legitimate marriage.' So I recognized that indeed it was a sin to have sexual intercourse with her. I left her, although she was the dearest of all people to me, and I left her the gold I had given her. O Allah, if I did that for your sake only, please relieve us from this present calamity." The rock moved a little more, but still they could not get out. The third man said, "O Allah, I employed a few laborers, and I paid all of them their wages, with the exception of one man who had gone away before taking his money. I invested his wages, and through that investment I greatly increased my property. After some time, he came and said to me, 'O servant of Allah, pay me the money you owe me.' I said, 'All the camels, cows, sheep, and slaves you see are yours.' He said, 'O servant of Allah, do not mock me.' I said, 'I am not mocking you.' He took the herd and drove them away, leaving nothing. 'O Allah, if I did that for your sake only, please relieve us from our present suffering.' The rock moved completely, and they walked out of the cave. Did you realize what the true secret to success is? It is sincerity to Allah. The previous stories clearly showed how acting out of pure intention and sincere devotion to Allah can totally change one's life. Allah saved the 3 men in the cave because of a sincere deed that each of them had once performed. Their sincerity was the key to their salvation. Allah grants assistance, comfort, guidance, and support according to a person's level of sincerity. Pure hearts, righteous intentions, and true faith are always rewarded by Allah. Here, the story about the baggage of backbiting, a journey to purify the heart. Zainab, a loving wife, devoted mother to 3 boys, and an aspiring content creator, realizes that her backbiting habit is not only harming her iman, but also blocking her path to success. Struggling with the negativity, she embarks on a spiritual and emotional journey to rid herself of this destructive habit. Along the way, she develops 5 practical tips to overcome backbiting. Through moments of reflection, trials, and deep repentance, Zainab transforms her life, inspiring others to drop the baggage of backbiting to fly higher in both dunya and akhirah. Zainab's journey begins on a regular afternoon. As she sips tea with her neighbor, they discuss the lives of others, exchanging gossip. At first it feels harmless, just casual talk. But later that night, as she prays Isha, her heart feels heavy. The words of the Quran echo in her mind, "And do not backbite one another." Would any of you like to eat the flesh of his brother when dead? You would detest it. Surah Al-Hujurat 49:12. Zainab freezes. The guilt overwhelms her. She realizes how often she engages in backbiting without even thinking. "Am I losing all my good deeds?" she whispers tearfully. The first step, seeking forgiveness. That night, Zainab makes a heartfelt dua, "Ya Allah, purify my heart and tongue. Protect me from the sin of backbiting. I want to change. Guide me to be better for my family, my work, and for you." She begins her journey by asking forgiveness from Allah and from the people she wronged. The process is not easy. Some are shocked, others offended. But Zainab persists, feeling lighter with each apology. Building a plan to avoid backbiting. Realizing the depth of her habit, Zainab creates a plan. Tip 1. Be silent or speak good. She keeps a note on her phone. If it's not helpful, kind, or necessary, don't say it. This serves as a reminder during conversations. Tip 2. Think before you speak. Zainab trains herself to pause before responding. She practices asking herself, is this gossip? Would I say this if the person were here? Is this beneficial or harmful? Facing the challenge. A test arises during a family gathering. Her relatives start discussing a cousin's divorce, making harsh comments. Zainab feels the urge to join in but remembers her plan. She excuses herself to refill tea and silently makes dhikr, repeating Astaghfirullah until the conversation shifts. Later, her sister-in-law notices and asks Zainab, "You've been so quiet." Is everything okay? Zainab takes a deep breath and shares her commitment to stop backbiting. At first, her family is surprised, even amused. But as she explains, they listen attentively, and some begin reflecting on their own habits. Zainab realizes the importance of teaching her children about the harm of backbiting. One evening, she gathers her 3 boys and tells them a story. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack full of rocks. Each time you backbite, another rock is added. Wouldn't it be exhausting to carry that weight every day? That's what happens to our hearts when we gossip. Let's keep our hearts light and pure. Her boys promise to remind her if they hear her backbiting. Together they create a family motto, clean hearts, clean words. As a content creator, Zainab decides to use her platform to address backbiting. She creates a video titled, "Drop the Baggage, the Hidden Danger of Backbiting." In the video, she shares her struggles, her plans, and the 5 tips she developed. 1. Be silent or speak good. 2. Think before 3. Be kind. 4. Be honest. 5. Be patient you speak. Excuse yourself from gossiping situations. Surround yourself with positive company. Make dhikr to protect your tongue. The video goes viral, resonating with viewers worldwide. People leave comments about how it inspired them to change. Zainab's dedication bears fruit. Her platform grows, attracting partnerships and opportunities. More importantly, she feels a deep sense of peace and closeness to Allah. Success blossoms in the family. As months pass, Zainab notices how her decision to abandon backbiting brings immense barakah, blessings, into her life and her family. Her husband, Khalid, begins noticing the peace and positivity in their home. One evening, Khalid tells Zainab, "You know, I used to think avoiding backbiting was impossible in this world, but watching you change has made me realize how powerful it is. I've started being more mindful at work, and it's made a huge difference." Within a few months, Khalid's hard work at his office is noticed by his superiors. He is promoted to a managerial position with better pay and flexible hours. Khalid credits this to the newfound positivity in their lives. "When you removed negativity, it made room for blessings," he tells Zainab with a smile. Zainab's 3 boys also benefit greatly from her efforts. Inspired by their mother's teachings, they begin avoiding gossip at school and encouraging their friends to do the same. One day, her eldest son, Ahmed, comes home beaming. "Mama, my teacher praised me today for solving a conflict between my classmates. I told them, instead of talking about each other, let's talk to each other." Zainab hugs him, her heart swelling with pride. She realizes that her choice to change is shaping her children into kind, empathetic individuals. Over time, Ahmed excels in his studies and becomes a leader in his school's student council. Her younger boys, Omar and Sami, also shine in their respective areas, Omar in sports and Sami in creative writing. Zainab notices that their positive outlook helps them form strong friendships and excel in their activities. Her own success. Zainab's content creation career takes off in ways she never imagined. Her video on the dangers of backbiting reaches millions of viewers, sparking global conversations about the impact of gossip. She begins receiving invitations to speak at events and collaborate with other creators. At an award ceremony for inspiring digital creators, Zainab is presented with the Impactful Storyteller Award. Holding the trophy, She delivers an emotional speech. I used to think success came from hard work alone, but I've learned that true success comes from purity of the heart and intentions. Dropping the baggage of backbiting not only freed me but allowed me to fly higher. This award is not just mine. It belongs to my family who supported me and to Allah who guided me. Alhamdulillah. One evening, Zainab gathers her family in the living room to reflect on their journey. The warmth of their laughter fills the air as they share their accomplishments. Khalid places his arm around Zainab and says, "You started this change and look where it has brought us. All of us." Zainab smiles, her heart filled with gratitude. It's not just about avoiding backbiting. It's about trusting Allah's promise. When we purify our hearts, He opens doors we never imagined. As she prays that night tahajjud, Zainab feels a deep sense of fulfillment. The baggage of backbiting is gone, and in its place is a lightness that allows her family to soar together.
Leave behind the talk that weighs you down, seek Allah's pleasure, and wear His crown. A pure heart will always shine bright, guided by truth, bathed in His light. The thief of joy is a whisper unkind. It darkens the soul and burdens the mind. Speak only good. Let your heart stay free, and Allah's blessings will flow like the sea.
This story was originally done in Arabic by Safir of Egypt. It is a story taken straight from the Quran, Surat al-Khaf Cave. I have seen an authorical translated version of this story. Once upon a time, in a long-forgotten town, there lived two men. One of the men was poor, but he believed in Allah, thankful to Him, well pleased with his life, happy with what Allah has provided him. The other, however, was rich. Allah has given him two beautiful and bountiful gardens, full of ripe fruit and green-topped trees. Rivers flowed through the gardens. Allah also gave tremendous wealth and castles. This rich man was arrogant, greedy with discrediting Allah for His blessings, and never thankful of the great bounty of Allah. One day, he went into one of his gardens, pointing to what it has of castles and fruit, saying in full arrogance, "These castles and gardens and wealth will never be finished, and I will be rich all my life." He enjoyed the bounties of what Allah has provided from the two gardens, of delicious fruits and abundant wealth, never giving charity to the poor nor those who are needy. The believer one day went to him in peace and harmony and told him in a nice tone, "O you rich man, Allah granted you great bounties, and Allah will question you about it on the day of judgment. You should thank your Lord for these blessings and do not be fooled by all this wealth, and do not forget the day of judgment." The rich man got up from his seat very angry and said in arrogance, "Quite, you poor man, and do not advise me. I am far more wealthy than you, and I have many children, and I own a lot of slaves and servants." Then the rich man laughed in ridicule and said, "I do not believe there is a day in which I will be judged in, and who will judge me, and I am the owner of this abundant wealth and power. Even if I were to go back to a Lord that will judge me after I die, as you claim, I will have a great reward and place and much more wealth because I am rich in this life." The poor man said in fear of Allah, "Do you disbelieve in Allah, O rich man? It is Allah that created you from dirt and provided you with all this great wealth, children, slaves, and servants. Even if I am less in wealth and children than you, Allah will give great reward much better than wealth and children. Do not disbelieve in Allah, O owner of the two gardens. Do not disbelieve." The rich man became even more arrogant and insisted on his disbelief, and the believer left him after saying, "Remember that it was Allah who gave you all these blessings, is fully able to take them from you." The believer continued praying to Allah to guide the rich man. Next morning, the rich man went out from his castle to his gardens in full arrogance and foolishness, as was his habit, and when he reached the gardens, he saw a horrible sight. The gardens have become desolate and empty. The trees were dry. The leaves and fruit have fallen off. The river ran dry. Allah had sent upon it a great flood and strong winds, which destroyed all that was in the 2 gardens during the night without the rich man ever noticing. He went about crying and weeping. He fell to the ground and sat down in great sadness and agony while saying, "I wish I did not associate partners with Allah and disbelieve in Him. I wish I had obeyed the poor man's requests and thanked my Lord." But it was too late for that now, and all the regret did not benefit him after he lost everything in this world and the next.